Okay, so this is my screencast for my artifact tracking sheet for data meeting number 2. So let's get started.
It's the SAVA Data Meeting number 2 weekly edition. Hidden message in the numbers.
All right, so as you can see, here's the artifact tracking sheet. I will speak to that more in depth just in another slide. But I just wanted to kind of have an overview that when we had our meeting, we went back and reviewed our notice and wonder statements. And I think it's worthwhile to note that from our data set from this class of second graders, that 44% of the students were below proficiency on the Maryland State Assessment in math. 20% of them were limited English speakers, and 24% of them had IEPs. So, what we decided our exploratory question would be that we were focusing on is how can we differentiate activities to promote mastery for all of our students?
Excavating begins.
So before we started to really analyze our material, we had an initial phone call just to kind of visit about our understanding of the process, what was our expectations, and kind of outline both of our work jobs. We also decided on our exploratory question during this phone call. Then we had the actual meeting another evening. It ran an hour. We used Google Hangouts, which was actually really nice to use. It kind of made it more personal, I felt like. We very carefully and systematically reviewed all the data, keeping our exploratory question in mind. I think it was a very productive discussion. And what we ended up concluding with is that we felt like the lesson plan and the assessments were really lacking in explicit instruction and activities to meet the needs of all the learners in this class.
Oh, the places you'll go if you have a traditional learning style.
So that is one thing we really noticed. The activities really kind of just spoke to people that were doing very well in the class. Um, we really carefully went through a lesson plan, and in that lesson plan, it had a formative assessment, a warm up activity, activity number 1, which we felt was okay, therefore, we didn't address it on the artifact tracking sheet, and activity 2. So, starting at the top with a formative assessment, it was listed as the students would solve story problems using addition and subtraction strategies. And we really felt like from the description of this, since we actually didn't teach this lesson, it sounded like it was very high level and would be more appropriate once addition and subtraction strategies were more in place, especially given the makeup of our class. So we felt like it was really just too difficult to assess readiness. We that is obviously an instructional gap, and we rated it as a 4 because we feel like it's pretty significant because you're not getting a good picture of where they really are, what they understand, what they know. And we put it as a 3 because it would, it would definitely affect, quite a few of the students. The warm up activity was an activity of creating combinations of students on a hypothetical bus, and there was a little worksheet. So the students are individually coming up with combinations of numbers of boys and girls on a bus. For example, there might be 3 girls and 1 boy. So how many students are on the bus? Um, it was interesting because this was noted that it would be done individually. It was kind of a long warm up activity, and it would just be, to be honest, kind of boring. I think it would be so much better given the makeup of the class where there's some students that are definitely behind. It would be more interesting to do this as a whole group activity. You could have students get up and act it out, and make different combination of girls and boys and have them moving around the classroom. You could have them doing it with manipulatives. You could utilize a smart board or technology and have the teacher recording all the different combinations. So it really was not a good warm up. We didn't feel like. So it was also an instructional gap. The significance was a 2, and the prominence was also, we rated it as a 2. Activity number 1, I don't have listed on here because activity number 1 was actually, we felt okay, because it was basically taking a 10 frame worksheet and using snap cubes to come up with different combinations to make 10. While not super dynamic, it definitely would give hands-on manipulatives and would help children that have different learning styles. And also it noted that they could work in teams, and that there was some direct instruction to explain what you were doing before the students did the activity. So we felt like that one was okay. Activity number 2, however, was very confusing. It was a board game with the Ravens and the Redskins, and using dice and using a variety of things. I'm sorry, not dice. Tracking your progression through this board game. It just had way too many rules. There was no actual instruction. This really would probably only meet the needs of a few students that were high level students and understood the concepts of the addition and subtraction. It just was very confusing, and I think it would be a classroom management nightmare, because I think that probably 75% of the class would have no idea what to do, and they would lose track very quickly. So I feel like this would be something that would be really good as a center activity or as an enrichment activity for students that have mastered the concept. Or I just didn't think it was a very good activity. So we felt like another instructional gap. So that's kind of an issue. The significance was pretty high, I think, because it was for the whole class. This was the meat of this lesson plan. And it wasn't clear. I don't think it was going to reach many of the students at all. And again, we put the prominence as a 4. So that was all the lesson plan. After that, we had sheets from a math minute. We had two each from students that were below grade level, on grade level, and above grade level from the benchmark tests. And they all kind of performed poorly on this. So this was a learning gap. So this would tell you as a teacher that only a handful of the students were actually understanding and retaining this information, the addition and subtraction. And finally, we looked at the benchmark. We had a benchmark from the beginning of the year and the middle of the year. And it was really, really just all over the place. It was focusing on so many different skills that it didn't really have too much with the addition and subtraction. It just was a pretty big test, to be honest, and it covered a lot of things.
Oh, the places you'll go.
Oops.
Equal access for all.
So what we concluded after we went through all of this is that not all the students' needs are really being met. Just a small handful of students that already have strong math skills. I feel like after looking at this that you really need to provide explicit instruction and to design activities to meet a variety of the learning styles, and that could definitely improve student achievement. Creating activities that incorporate kinesthetic, audio, visual learning styles would provide a dynamic learning opportunity. Also, incorporating more instruction time and support would benefit all learners. And I think understanding that 40% of them tested below grade level on math, and also knowing that 20% have an IEP, and I think it was 24% were limited English. You have to give them the opportunities to have a variety of ways to understand the material.
What lies ahead?
So where do we go next for data meeting number 3? I am just going to read this. The collaboration between myself and my teammate Beth is going really smoothly. We have very similar outlooks on our activities and also a similar work experience. We've been able to meet frequently and divide our tasks seamlessly. This last meeting we utilized Google Hangout, which we both enjoyed and plan on continuing using it for our other data meetings. At this point, I'm really happy with our collaboration and work. I don't really have any suggestions for improvement. I hope we can continue at the rate we're currently working on. We've been really able to text and email and phone call very frequently, which has kept us both on task. And I've really enjoyed the process so far. It's been interesting how you can really get so much more out of data than I ever thought before. And I can see where it really does benefit and can focus your instruction. So it's been pretty interesting to me. And that is my presentation on the artifact tracking sheet. Thank you.